Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with 10 works that exhaust you for the rest of the day or week. Now, this is the sequel to 10 works that you use to de-stress after a hard day. Some of you said, well, what about the opposite? What about music that makes it impossible for you to focus on anything else? Well, the truth of the matter is all great music involves us. All great music gets our heart racing. But, the de-stressors tend to embrace us in a warm, snuggly kind of hug. Whereas there are some pieces that are so intense and so disturbing and so moving that after you hear them, it's really you need to give it a rest. It's really hard to do anything else. At least I think there are. There are pieces that affect me that way. And so I have listed 10 of those, and I expect you will have your own group. A lot of these, not to be surprised, have words, because it's the combination of the words and music that create the specific emotional impact. It's the specificity of what the music is telling us that goes a long way to causing that emotional reaction. But there are some pieces of a particularly monumental cast that managed to get the job done without text. And those are mostly by Mahler, I have to say. I mean, I know some people don't like Mahler, but trust me when I tell you, one of the reasons they don't like Mahler is because this is the effect it has on you. Anyway, let's do the list, shall we? Berg's Wozzeck. Wozzeck is just one of the most tragically disturbing operas there is. And that final scene when Wozzeck and Marie's son is playing with his hobby horse and the other kids walk on and just say, hey, your mother's dead. Let's go look. And they all walk off and go see. And the kid just stays there playing with his hobby horse and then finally goes to follow his friends to look at his mother's body. I have no words for that. There are no words for that. And Berg's setting is so unbelievably perfect in expressing just the tragedy of innocence. It's beyond gripping. It's incredible. And when that's over, I need a break. I just need a break from everything, from life, So that's one. Second, Mahler, Symphony No. 2, The Resurrection. Oh boy, and a great performance. It's again, I have no words. I'm going to be talking about all of these pieces. It blows you out of the water. It's incredible. And one of the saddest things I think today is the fact that the piece has just become a subscription night event of no particular importance. I mean, great versions of it will still, do that to you, but it just gets played in such a routine way these days, as though it's not special. I mean, the music has its effect. It will always have its effect on you, but it's taken for granted nowadays, which is, I think, a terrible, terrible thing, because the piece has just been one of the high points of my musical life whenever I've seen it, and it's amazing. It's just amazing. It's amazing in the opposite way of Wozzeck. Wozzeck, of course, is tragic. This is exalting and cosmic. It's phenomenal. Next, the Bach St. Matthew Passion, a piece I never particularly cared for and probably still don't. But when I'm in the mood and I do the Bach St. Matthew Passion, you can hear nothing else. It's an unbelievably powerful experience. It really is. And I can just imagine what they must have thought in Leipzig in 1720, whatever it was, to hear that. I mean, sitting on a miserable, hard, uncomfortable church bench in an, unheated church and around Easter or whatever it was. I mean, oh my God, it must have been just a torment. And the piece itself is so extraordinary. It's so far beyond what conventional religion does for people. I mean, in any conventional religion, people go to church to worship, and the service is supposed to be kind of, digestible. You know, the message is digestible. The length of the service is digestible. Your participation is designed to be digestible. You know, you get your dose of spirituality and then you go home. But you imagine just showing up for the first time, ready for your passion setting, and this is what happens to you. Holy mackerel. I mean, I often think of that when I listen to it, because I just, it's so powerful and all encompassing, and such a direct and emotionally gripping telling of the story. Whew. Oh boy. Next, Janáček, Jenůfa. Jenůfa, I can't even begin to explain Jenůfa. When it's over, I'm a puddle. I've just been reduced to a total dripping, sweating mess. And it's funny because, you know, I go with friends and they hear it, they say, well, it's very beautiful. It's really terrific. They clap a lot, but it doesn't have the same effect. It absolutely slays me. First of all, there's the second act scene, you know, when Kostelnička decides that she has to kill the baby. And she has that monologue, that unbelievable monologue where she's working herself up into a fury of insane intensity, which is, I just think, the most powerful moment ever written for the soprano voice. And then she's gone, and then Jenůfa comes out, of course, and has her big monologue. And then the third act begins, and you know, they've discovered the body of the child, and they want to kill Kostelnička, and lots of defends Jenůfa, and she confesses, and there's the ending, which is hopeful, and it's hard to call it a happy ending. It's a hopeful ending, but it's a triumph of humanity despite all of our failings and frailties and stupidity and mistakes. There's still greatness in love. And I don't know, there's something about that piece. I can't even begin to say or think about anything else after I've heard it. It's just an incredible piece of writing. And it's not even my favorite Janáček opera, believe it or not. That's The Cunning Little Vixen. But this piece just reduces me to a quivering heap. So there's that. Then Tchaikovsky, Symphony No. 6, the Pathétique. Ooh, boy. If you want just... I think Tovey described it best. The finale, he said, the complete simplicity of despair. It's music of shattering honesty. It's not trying to be anything more than what it is. A total succumbing to despair and misery. And it's naked music in that sense, and it makes it very, very difficult to think of anything else, especially if you listen to Bernstein's Deutsche Grammophon recording, where he stretches the movement out to like 16 or 18 minutes or whatever. It's like, oof. Even Bernstein himself said it's about as far out there as you can go and still have a chance of coming back. And he was right. I mean, he plays it that way, and it's the epitome of desperation and despair. Incredible. After that, oh boy, we've only done 5, and I'm already exhausted and can't think of anything else. Mahler, again, this time Symphony No. 9. It's an experience like no other, really. I mean, I remember taking my sister to see it at Carnegie Hall when Bernstein did it with the New York Philharmonic, and you know, she's not usually like a classical music person, but she was so deeply, deeply touched by it. She looked at me, she just said, it's just so incredibly sad. And the finale is the most moving experience of the act of dying. It can't be anything else. I mean, you just know that's what it is, and it has no text. Like the Pathétique, you know, we're dealing now with pieces that take you there without words. But one of the reasons they do that is because what's happening in the music is so graphic that even without words, there's no mistaking what the intention is. And Mahler's Ninth is one of those pieces. I mean, you know, it goes through that whole world of experience from that very complex and devastating first movement to the two sardonic scherzos, and then finally you get this long adagio where the last few pages seem to take an eternity, and you're slowly giving up until the final chord, it all just dies away peacefully. And that's an unbelievable experience. And it's, if you jump up and scream bravo when it's over, there's something terminally wrong with you. Absolutely. Bruckner, Symphony No. 8. That's a transcendental cosmic experience. Bruckner's music is all spiritual. It's all about faith. But in the Eighth Symphony, he portrays that in such an exalted way. And it's not, people like to talk about Bruckner as kind of a simpleton, that he was, this sort of, foolish, religious, pious man who liked little girls and counting things, but the reality of the situation is the eighth is a victory which is not easily won. And that's part of the power of it, because it's not an unquestioned faith. I think it's one where the ultimate outcome is never in doubt, but the struggle, the human struggle to get to that point, is essentially what the symphony is about. The opening movement is completely tragic. The scherzo is gloriously it's this cosmic machine, that's the adagio with its harps and strings. It's Bruckner, reaching beyond into the other realm, and then the finale, which is sort of a march, but sort of has it's like all Bruckner finales. It's difficult because it doesn't really cover new territory, but it does manage, because the first movement is comparatively short, to re-engage with where the music's going, and achieve that final rock solid statement of belief with all the themes combining at the end. It can be absolutely amazing. I saw a performance with the Baltimore Symphony led by Skrovichevsky. Back in the day, he actually added a tam-tam to the second cymbal crash in the adagio. Go Stanislav. But it was a performance like that. It was totally devastatingly gripping, and you needed silence afterwards. You needed some few hours, days of just quiet, because it just seemed that anything that came afterwards would be an anticlimax. So there's that one. And I also saw Karajan do it with Vienna Phil, one of those last concerts at Carnegie Hall, that concert he gave, his last appearances here. And that was also equally powerful and impressive and breathtaking. And it was, afterwards, even Karajan was he was stunned that he had been able to do it, that they were able to do it. And it was a remarkable evening. So Bruckner's Eighth for sure. Then Mahler Symphony No. 6, one of the few pieces of music that is truly tragic. I mean, not just unhappy like Tchaikovsky's Sixth, but tragic. It describes the inevitability of fate. That's really what it's about, and it has the same effect, at least on me, as Greek tragedies were supposed to have. That is, they were supposed to purge you of negativity by accepting the inevitability of fate. It was supposed to actually make you feel better. And Mahler's Six does that to me. Of course, I played it a bunch of times. I don't think there's another piece in the repertoire that's more refreshing, that's more fun to do, that when it's over, no matter how grim the outcome, you feel reinvigorated. Like okay, yeah, there's fate, but we're still here. They often say, that that Mahler's Sixth is about death. That film, it's not about death. It's not about death at all. The Ninth Symphony is about death. The finale ends with death. But Mahler is very careful in how he structures his symphonies. And when he's dealing with the topic of death, there can be no music after the moment of death. That's why the third hammer blow came out, by the way. Because if Mahler had killed the hero with the third hammer blow, there would have been no music. But that wasn't the point. The point wasn't that the hero is killed. The point is that fate is triumphant. That is the point. That after all the struggling and all this stuff, and there's a certain, I don't know how to describe it, a certain comfort in the humility that comes from knowing that at the end of the day, you're not, your chazarai doesn't matter that much. Things just go on. Fate is always there. Life is always there, and we are just temporary occupants or visitors to this planet. And Mahler's Sixth conveys that somehow. If you listen to it with an open mind and just let it happen, it creates an enormous impression. And it's another work where when it's over, there can be nothing else. Absolutely nothing else. Next, Shostakovich Symphony No. 13, Babi. Now we're back to music with text. He had 4 works that had no text. Remarkable pieces that they can express what they express and have that impact without telling us what they're trying to say. But Shostakovich's Babi is one of the most gripping settings of really powerful poetry in the entire repertoire. And the progression from complete horror and evil through sardonic humor, then, at the store, and then fears, the aspects of life where people just treat each other horribly. And then the final concluding statement, a career. I follow my career by not following it. In other words, by not being a careerist, by being an honest artist, by expressing what is right and good and beautiful and it's just unbelievably powerful and moving. And it's all the more moving for the fact that there is nothing in the text which is religious or spiritual or anything like that. It goes to show that, secular words can get you there just as effectively as the most sublime sacred texts. Because in Shostakovich's hands, the music becomes a sublime sacred experience. It really does. It's the outcry of the persecuted artist and demanding his right to create and his freedom of spirit and of mind. It's just, oh my God, it's just so cosmically amazing. And then finally, Britten, the War Requiem. War Requiem is really kind of amazing because it's very calculated. The War Requiem is one of those pieces, the texts are very carefully chosen. The effects are extremely well judged. There's an awful lot of craft and thought that went into the making and structuring of it. And it does exactly what Britten wanted it to do. And I find that to be really impressive, that he said, okay, I'm going to write a monumental masterpiece that's about the situation that we live in and the state and the horror of war and the ironic commentary on the sacred text, because here you have technically, a religious text. I mean, it's a religious text which is supposed to be about, religion generally is supposed to be about all the best and most exalted things in man, but he's contrasting it with the worst. And the horror and the fact that, this formalistic religious ritual has absolutely no ability to stop people from treating each other like, in the most bestial possible way. It's a powerful statement and a very intentional statement, and it's one that leaves me absolutely breathless when it's over. So those are my 10, and that's why they are on the list. I am very interested to see what your list is. And it doesn't have to be 10. It can just be as many as you think is appropriate, because this is one of those topics where I don't think you can force it. I think you have to simply sit back and let the information come to you. And then if you want to share it with the rest of us, thank you. I think that's a wonderful thing. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks very much for joining me. Take care.